What's up, guys? Tommy Carrigan with Tommy Untamed. We've got an incredible guest today. Show starts right now. We were just talking about how I've been off Twitter for like 3 weeks now, and it was peaceful, it was relaxing. I found that when like news wasn't in my subconscious and every thought, and I've kind of just slowed down and appreciating a sunny day. It's been very beneficial, but I have found, and I forget who said it. I don't It's something about meditation. It's like meditation's great. It's great to slow your mind down. Prayer is great. Go to church is great. But you don't want stillness forever, because stillness forever is like a still pond. It's covered in fungus and bugs.
Ew.
Versus if you look at like the bottom of a waterfall, it's chaotic, sure, but it's also alive. It's fresh. It's clean. I've kind of been going back and forth in my own mind, and it's also been kind of the most ironic like 3 weeks to not be on Twitter. I mean, I guess culminating with Israel hitting Iran's nuclear site. So that might have been like man, I should probably be somewhat literate of what's going on in the world, because I've just been completely checked out, and I'm at a point where I'm like, I think it's actually kind of. And also, I do the podcast. Like at a certain point, that's like showing up to work like without pants. Like, well, you're just not doing your
Oh, don't do
job
that.
correctly. Don't do that. So, but for everybody listening, go into the description. Please go follow Claire on Twitter. But seeing as how I have access to you, I figured I would just have you lay it down for me instead of me going and trying to figure out what's going on.
Sure, sure. I mean, what I would say is that, there are lots of folks around the country whose jobs, whose lives involve other things. They have different, focuses for their attention, and, it's not really maybe important for them to be on social media every day. But if I, others, think tank people and so forth, media people, news people are in the news business. That is following current events. Not every single place in the world, but for us, the major places, for example, for me, are going to be the Middle East. They're going to be Ukraine and Russia, and they're going to be China and the Far East, Taiwan. And then, of course, right here at home and what's going on in the homeland in terms of threats, like the current riots sweeping across the country in different cities. Um, but so you don't have to focus on everything when you and we are in, the business of, let's say, national security, homeland security. Um, but you got to keep up.
Yeah,
Even if you're on vacation, you can take a half an hour every day,
and check
even on
in.
a vacation, and just, little quick, scroll through, catch up, and that Iran is on the verge of nuclear weapons. Okay, you've got it. And that Israel, existentially threatened, of course, and the right, since the 1600s and Ugo Grotius, under international law to anticipatory self-defense, struck Iran, beginning last Thursday night into Friday night, 12th to the 13th of June. Here we are, 2025. So it doesn't take much to keep up sort of at a basic level. Even when you're on vacation, do not let go of everything,
Yeah,
because then the catching up becomes impossible, and you can't do it, and you're out of it.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's another in this block of time I've taken off. That's the other thing is like, I think the first thing somebody said something about like the Dutch government on here, and I was like, yeah, I don't really care about that. And then the following week, it was like active duty Marines are being deployed to LA, and I was like, what? And now I think it might have been my mom texted me or someone about it, and I was like Israel, Iran, and I was, so I'm like, yeah, I don't know. There is something to be said about not totally letting go, because now I'm sitting here going like, active duty Marines in Los Angeles, and they're hitting nuclear sites. And I like, yeah, I should probably to a degree. There was a picture. I don't know. There was a picture last night I took. It was crazy sunset, and I texted it to several people, and every response is that the sunset or is that Tehran? And I was like, I need a
Well, the
okay, okay,
skyline of
I'm checked out.
Tehran, yeah, these days could be mistaken for an exceptionally beautiful sunset. Yeah.
So what all this is not the same as, let's say, Stuxnet in like 2011 or something, where that was
No,
Natanz, right?
no, that was a cyber attack.
Yeah, and the centrifuges, I'm aware of that. That's what I mean
Yeah,
is this is different than that in that they hit multiple sites and killed personnel. So can you kind
right.
of explain to me what has happened?
Yeah. So, what led up to this very quickly was intelligence coming out from the inside of Iran, where the Mossad has many, many penetrations, operatives, agents reporting to them. I happen to think that probably most of those, maybe not all, but most of those are probably the Mujahideen Khalq organized resistance inside of Iran that have penetrated completely its nuclear weapons program, as well as other top ranks of its military, for example, the IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the Pasdaran, um, and Quds Force, of course, Basij, as well as the intelligence agencies of Iran, Vizarati Etilat Vamnida Kashfar, the MOIS. And so from that information, from that intelligence feeding out to Mossad, me putting this together in my own, sequence here, Mossad realized, and by the way, shared this information intelligence with the United States, with the Trump administration, but realized that the earlier so-called Ahmad plan, AMAD, Ahmad plan, that dates back a couple of decades, which was the blueprint for the Iranian nuclear weapons program, that plan had been superseded. We'll recall, of course, that the documents for the Ahmad plan, the reason that we know about that is because the Mossad, again, probably working with some very courageous Iranians on the inside of the country, spirited out of a warehouse in Tehran in January of 2016 a whole, uh, you know, raft of documents, hard drives, thumb drives, what all, about the Iranian nuclear weapons program up until that point. Now, the U.S. intelligence community has been woefully, I mean, abjectly, just out of the game. I don't even have words for how bad they're following their intelligence on this has been. But after the Iranian opposition, again, the Mujahideen Khalq and its umbrella organization, the NCRI, National Council of Resistance of Iran, whose Washington, D.C. offices are located on Pennsylvania Avenue, 18th Street, just a couple blocks down from the White House. But in mid, I think of August of 2002, the NCRI held press conferences in Paris and in Washington, D.C., for the first time blowing the lid publicly off of the Iranian nuclear weapons program. Had been secret before that time, but it had been developing, certainly since the current supreme leader, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, took over after the death of the Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. He died in 1989. So the revelation in 2002 really shook the Iranian regime, and they moved to close down some sites that had been revealed. In particular, one not far from Tehran called Lavizan Shian. And not only did they shut it down, they razed it to the ground, and then they paved it over and made basketball and tennis courts and picnic areas out of it, and told the world that, oh, well, the municipality of Tehran really wanted this for a park for the families. But nevertheless, the IAEA inspectors, International Atomic Energy inspectors, went to the site And uh, even though this cleanup had been so complete, they were able to find traces there anyway of highly enriched uranium. The only use for that is to develop a nuclear weapon. Well, the United States intelligence community, for whatever reason I cannot fathom, just got it in their heads and decided, oh, the Iranians are not pursuing a nuclear weapon anymore. They shut it all down. Well, that was like the farthest thing from the truth, as the documents of the Ahmad plan, again, revealed once that heist took place out of that warehouse in Tehran. The Ahmad plan continued up until quite recently. But then, just a couple of years ago, it was replaced, superseded by a new plan called the Kavir Plan. Kavir in Farsi means the desert plan, Kavir Plan. And it was named that because some of its most important sites are located in mostly desert, but also kind of mountainous and desert areas um, to the east of Tehran in Semnan province. And so the National Council of Resistance of Iran has been holding regular press briefings that I've attended either in person or virtually since this past December 2024. And I've been now to four of them, I think. The most recent being just less than a week ago. And what was described in those briefings is exactly what Israel and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who, by the way, just appeared on a Fox News interview with Brett Baer just a short time ago, talking about this, and other senior leadership figures of Israel also talking about this. They don't name it. It's funny to me. I don't know why. They don't say the Kavir plan. What they say is a secret plan for the weaponization of the Iranian nuclear program. Now, to have a deliverable nuclear weapon, you need three things, three parts to this project. You got to have enriched uranium, and everybody's been talking about that ad nauseum. But for some reason, they keep saying IAEA says, U.S. Leadership says, oh, they got up to 60%, which is highly enriched uranium. But they don't say where they actually have gone, which is well over 90%,
Yeah.
92, 93%, which is called weapons grade uranium, out of which can be made a nuclear device. So, in any case, large stockpiles of enriched uranium on hand, enough as uh, they have. I'm looking at my notes here. That would be enough to make 9 bombs in a few months. Okay. The second part of the project, you have to have the weaponization, as they call it, which means actually taking the enriched uranium, the uranium-238 that is enriched from the raw ore rocks, which comes out of the mountain as U-235. So you get enough U-238, and then you can begin the milling, the metallurgical milling process of creating the
Explosive
two
languages.
hemispheres
Yeah.
that fit together in a nuclear device. Well, 9 of those is what has been said they would be able to make in a short period of time, a few months, with the enriched uranium they have on hand, plus whatever they would enrich in the meantime. That's number 2. The third part is the delivery system, and that would be the ballistic missiles, which we know, of course, they have because they've shot them at Israel by the hundreds over the last year
It's
and
it's
more.
it's kind of not funny, maybe funny. This is, I think, how you and I first got in touch was through the late great Alice Butler Short, if I'm remembering her name
Was it
correctly.
really? I remember her
She
so well.
she had,
Yeah,
and
lovely
somebody had put
lady.
me in touch with her. It was a whole daisy chain, but I remember she had recommended I have you on, and I
Uh-huh.
just looked you up on YouTube, and I think the first thing was talking about the Connex box based. I'm forgetting the name of it. The missile systems that you can put in the shipping container.
Oh, Gulftainer.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
mean the
yeah.
Gulftainer
And
project?
that's how you and I first. And I remember this was the first
Right.
thing
That
we
was
talked
way
about.
back, what,
What
2018
the
or
2019 or
so?
2020, but it was talking about. I remember the three
Maybe.
things.
Yeah,
It
okay.
was uranium, lensing it, and then putting it on a. I just yeah, it all
Yeah.
kind of just came flooding
So
back.
so
Sorry,
this
yeah.
this is
But this
how
has
you
been an
make
issue forever because this is the first
it,
thing we
it's
talked
been a
about.
long time. So this is the information that's openly available. I mean, I go to the briefings, I read the news sites, I read the think tank reports. I have no idea on the face of this earth how the U.S. intelligence community has come up with what the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, told to the Senate in congressional hearings a few months ago, to wit, that they did not believe Iran was working on a nuclear weapon. I mean, boggles the mind that they could even think such a thing, much less, say that to Congress in open session. Uh, Maybe they told them something different behind closed doors. Don't know that, of course. In any case, what I'm getting at here is that just more recently, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and also Danny Danon, the Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, they both talked in just the last few days about an escalating existential threat. I'm quoting Ambassador Danon here, a secret program. And they don't say the Kavir plan, but it's obvious that's what they mean. Continued quote, that showed dangerous Iranian progress toward a nuclear bomb, including plans for a surprise attack that would incorporate a nuclear strike. And right just now, as I said a little bit ago, within the last hour on Fox News, Prime Minister Netanyahu was speaking with Fox News reporter host, Brett Baer, and he too cited a secret plan leading to weaponization. Now, I don't know why they don't just come straight out and say the Kavir plan was put into hyperdrive within the last months, after in 2024 and on into this year, um, Israel has taken out, really severely degraded the capabilities of its former Islamic terror proxies, Hamas, obviously, Hezbollah, and also the Houthis.
Do you think it's like a?
Degraded their capabilities. Then also, their close ally in Damascus, Bashar al Assad, was ousted in December 24 by the Sunni jihadi group born out of Al Qaeda called Hayat Tahrir al Sham, led by nom de guerre al Golani, but he goes by his birth name now, Ahmed al Shara, backed by Turkey. So that airspace over Syria now becomes open because the Russians, which had had a large air base there during the time of Bashar al Assad, and protected Syria's airspace against Israel or anyone else. Well, that's now wide open. In terms of geography, if you're thinking about the land or the airspace that lies between Israel and Iran, the Syrian airspace is now wide open. The proxies are gone, insurance is gone. And finally, in those attacks of last year, in April and in October of 24, in retaliatory strikes, the Israeli Air Force took out not just early radar warning sites for the Iranian regime, but also a lot of its most important air defenses, including its, I think there were three S-300 air defense systems, gone and cannot be replaced. Russia provided them earlier, but cannot replace them now. All of that took place, and what that left the regime in Tehran with was basically nothing except a super sprint to nuclear weapons capability. And that's what they've done. That's the Kavir plan. And I think that's the information, intelligence, that prompted Israel to decide this past week they could not wait any longer. that not only was Iran weaponizing and developing, building nuclear warheads, but perhaps even getting to the point of the last adjustments or whatever needs to be done to them to affix them to fix them to the nose cones of their ballistic missiles. At that point, it becomes completely existential, anticipatory self-defense, and Israel had to go. So that's where we are, and I can tell you what's
Do,
gone on since then.
do you think some of the reason they don't name it? I'm just trying to think. Do you wonder if it's almost like some form of demoralization? You know how sometimes the news won't put out the name of a shooter simply to rob them of the fame. Though it always eventually comes out. Do you think there's any part of that? You don't mention the name of the program.
I
Just
don't know. I'm always in favor of the more information, the better.
no. So am I.
There's no reason at this point to keep it back because it is public and it's been
Yeah. No.
named in open press conferences and written up by umpteen different news media outlets.
No. No. I get that, but it's like if someone shoots up a school, to not say
Oh, you
their
want to name and shame them.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. But I mean,
Name them and shame them.
but they also love the fame. I'm just wondering if
Well,
the
I
reason,
mean, some of them are not with us anymore, thankfully.
yeah, no, there are, yeah.
But I say absolutely name them immediately and
Oh,
shame
I'm
them
with
from
you.
now until the cows come home.
I'm with you. But you don't, in this case where they seemingly haven't named the program, you almost wonder if it's just you don't even want to give them like they don't even want to see their name online.
I don't know.
Probably
I don't
not
know
an
about
important
that,
point to
but
fixate on. Yeah.
um,
Um.
in any case, what did happen then is that beginning in the overnight um, Israeli, Middle East time, between Thursday and Friday of this past week, 12th and 13th, Israel unleashed a massive Israeli Air Force. They were using their jets, their fighter jets. That's what they were using and still are. Aerial attack against Iranian nuclear weapons sites, ballistic weapons sites. There were also very precisely targeted assassination strikes against regime military leadership as well as nuclear organization leadership and scientists involved in the nuclear weaponization program. Um, Years went by preparing all of this. This did not just come together last week. Um, and what I'll add here is the congratulations. I mean, just awe and admiration for basically the deception operation that Israel, together with the United States, um, used against the Iranian regime. And what do I mean by that? The United States will recall President Trump, his Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff, um, Marco Rubio at Secretary of State, and others. We're talking over a period of weeks about negotiations with the Iranian regime. They met in Muscat, Oman, then they met in Rome, then they went back to Oman. Um, and the objective was constantly talked about. Let's get a negotiated settlement out of this. Let's get the Iranian regime to the point that it will agree to completely dismantle, verifiably, completely, permanently, the entirety of all those three parts of its nuclear weapons program I mentioned, enriched uranium and the means to do so, meaning all the centrifuges, um, the weaponization, the warheads, and the ballistic missiles. All of that, that was the objective that the U.S. side said for the talks with Iran. And this went on for weeks. But at the same time, I think that part of that was purposeful to lull the Iranian regime into a sense of a bit of complacency that all President Trump wants is to talk and make a deal. He's holding Israel back. He's holding them back. And Bibi won't go unless he gets the green light from the White House, and he doesn't have the green light. This was a deception operation masterfully executed, in my opinion, from what I've been able to observe. And likewise, inside of Israel itself, they were touting and promoting an image of political infighting, let's say, There were, discussions about the conscription of the Haredi population to the military to join the IDF. There were coalition concerns for Bibi's Likud coalition in the Knesset. All kinds of things. And then Prime Minister Netanyahu actually was scheduled to go on vacation. Um, where was he going? Up to, I think, the northern part of Israel, like this weekend and into the coming week. And one of his son's weddings, I guess it's still scheduled for Tuesday, the 17th. Um, so all of that taken together really let the Iranian regime get the impression that no, nobody's thinking about anything except all these, multiple different plans and everything, the chaos maybe going on politically, all that. That was a deception operation, and we were part of it. And absolute admiration for the way they pulled it off. Here's the other thing that happened during the lead up, the immediate lead up to this past week. Well, that goes back a ways. It's not just last week, but in the lead up, let's say, Israel was able, I don't know how, to smuggle operatives and sophisticated weaponry inside Iran and build a FOB, forward
Forward
operating
operating
base,
base. Good lord.
inside of Iran, a drone base. They hid it in rocky or rugged areas, okay? But they were located close to missile launch sites so that with the sophisticated weaponry, including drones, that they somehow got into this FOB, they were able to knock down any retaliatory, not
Jeez.
every single one, of course, but
Yeah.
to knock down many of Iran's retaliatory attempted firings of ballistic missiles after Israel had begun its strikes against Iran. They placed precision missiles, that is, the Israelis, placed precision missiles on many, many vehicles, and they were able to then bomb not just the ballistic missile launch sites and silos themselves, but to catch any more that might have gotten off the ground but never made it out of Iranian airspace. So this has been incredibly a sophisticated, attack that's taken forever. I mean, years, literally years to prepare this. Also, part of this is the targeting not just of specific sites, like we can talk about different nuclear sites. We can name Natanz, which has been hit and perhaps disabled, but in any case, hit hard. Also, Isfahan, the conversion site, has been hit. And then Fardo, I think, remains to be taken hors de combat, but it's definitely on the target list. So, the targeting for all these sites. But I also want to mention um, that a
Tracking of
number of,
personnel. That's
yeah,
moving. Those are
regime
moving.
leadership, exactly. Leadership. I'll just run through a quick list here. This isn't even comprehensive, but let's go. The Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, Major General Mohammed Bagheri, the architect of Iran's ballistic missile system, gone. IRGC Commander, Major General Hossein Salami, gone. Others of his top command of the IRGC also taken out. They were in a meeting together when, unfortunately, something came through the window and they all went off to meet their virgins together. Quds Force Commander, Ismail Qani, also gone. IRGC Major General Gholam Ali Rashid, the Deputy Chief of Staff of the Iranian Armed Forces and Commander also of the Central Qatam al-Anbiya complex in Tehran, he's gone. The entire top leadership of the Iranian Air Force, General Gholam al-Rashid, the Deputy Commander-in-Chief, to name one of them, of the Iranian armed forces, or that's armed forces, and then a number of nuclear scientists. I understand something like 9 have now been taken out. Very specific targeting against these individuals. I'll name just 2 of them. Tehranchi, Dr. Teheranchi and Dr. Feridun Abbasi, former head of the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran, taken out. Um, nine altogether, nine senior nuclear scientists, all their expertise, all their leadership gone off the table now. Um, SEPAND, you might have heard this abbreviation in English, SPND, we just say SEPAND. It stands for, that's a Farsi acronym, but it stands for the Center for Security, Research, and Development, spelled out in Farsi. Well, their commander, Reza Mozafarinia, taken out. The head, this is the organization that has been in charge of Iran's nuclear weapons program, and in particular the weaponization, that is the warheads part of it. Commander, taken out, gone. Naval commander, the commander of the IRGC's own aerospace forces, Amir Ali Hajizadeh, gone. Deputy operations chief of the general staff of the Iranian military, Major General Mehdi Rabbani. Um, you know, replacements have been named. I mean, who's going to step up? They
Yeah.
were formerly number two, and now, the supreme leader said, "Okay, you're in charge now." I got to think there might be a little bit of,
Hesitance.
hesitation there to step up and fill those slots.
Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food. 72 servings per pail, 25 years shelf life. I've had the owner Clayton on the show before. He's a God-fearing, America-loving patriot. Get one of these, get a couple of them, throw them in your basement. It's good to have it, not need it, than to need it and not have it. If you don't want to do that, you can get their seeds. You can plant your own garden, so you don't even have to keep buying them. You can just get the goods and start your own, or you can even get freeze-dried fruits and vegetables like bananas, apples, strawberries, and raspberries. They support the show. It's an honest product. It's a good safety measure to have, and they keep my show free for you. So I'd implore you guys to please go to heavensharvest.com, use the link in the description, promo code TPC. Axios Fitness Coaching is a premium resource for holistic strength and conditioning services. Axios is best known for the Training Club, capital T, capital C, an exclusive community that prioritizes accountability, technique, diet, and nutrition. Everything you need to do to take action against the decay of the modern world. Whether you're looking to improve your physique, build strength, or just take care of your health and fitness, Axios will provide you with the solution that is effective and simple to execute. All you need to do is complete the intake survey, and you can see if you're a good candidate for the training club or any other of the services. And it's going to sponsor the show. So, one company falls off, another one arises. So if you guys like the show, you want to work out, throw the show a couple shekels. Go take the survey. Thank you so much, guys.
Higher ultraviolet exposure is associated with lower mortality. The United Kingdom is a high latitude and low sunlight country. Researchers there collected data on over 360,000 participants in a study of UV exposure via solarium use. When compared with non-users, solarium users had 15% risk lowered of all-cause mortality, 23% lower risk of cardiovascular mortality, 14% lower risk of cancer mortality, and a 12% lower risk of non-cardiovascular, non-cancer mortality. In other words, all other causes. Quoting the researchers, our study adds to the growing evidence that the benefits of UV exposure outweigh the risks in low sunlight environments. A link to the original publication is available in the box below the video. Get some UV light this winter. Immerse yourself in the tranquility of the blue. Visit a Blue Room soon. www.blueroom.com.
Regardless of that, just simply taking out the top people, I mean, just, basic common sense, the cream of the crop is normally at the top. You're taking
Well,
out
at
the,
least the ones with the most knowledge
yeah,
and the best organizational skills
just
you
as
would
like a
think.
blanket statement of like all of human
Hmm.
history. Yeah, and organizations
Yeah,
for the most part, yeah, I get nepotism and corrupt, but for the most part,
yeah.
the better people rise to the top. That's a giant brain drain. But also, I was gonna say, I didn't know that they had. So I knew that from what little I had looked up, I knew that they had hit multiple targets, and I knew that personnel had died. I didn't know that seeking out personnel was
Yes,
a specific part of them. I did not know that.
absolutely.
I assumed like you kill
They
some if
sent
you hit these
missiles
buildings.
through the bedroom
Yeah,
windows. They knew exactly where these guys were, when they were there, middle of the night, which room was theirs, and the rest of the apartment building that they were in, not touched.
I
I
guess
mean,
I'm
it's
not surprised.
incredible, specificity of targeting.
There's a book I'm reading or listening to right now. What the hell's the name of it? Um, First Casualty: The Untold Story of the CIA 9/11. About like the first ground branch, Toby Harnden. Um, but yeah, that's
Oh,
it.
he used to be with
It
it was a British media, right?
yeah, yeah, and
I think I've met him at least one time, but a long time ago.
yeah, it's about the first guys in like weeks after. But the point is that was 01, and they were doing these kind of attacks then, where it was like it wasn't just indiscriminate. It was you have names of people you're tracking, you're moving, which I don't think shouldn't be, at least I guess to myself, it shouldn't be a surprise. Again, these things don't just is the very reason you have war plans is so that when something happens, you're not scrambling. You can, for lack of a better phrase, you can take it off the shelf, dust it
Yeah,
off, and go.
but what else this indicates and should strike, probably does strike, absolute terror into the what's left of the Iranian regime. What that means is that the Mossad has sources, intelligence sources inside of each of these organizations I just named.
Correct.
The Pasdaran, the Quds Force. I hear that the Basij headquarters in Tehran has just been taken out. Um,
They
they've got
probably didn't.
penetrations
They
in every
probably
one of these places to know where these guys are at any given moment. That has got to be terrifying. I
That's
hope
a
it is.
that's a yeah, that's definitely a psychological thing.
Yeah,
If they pop one person, it's chances are they probably know where others are.
yep,
That's gotta have you thinking.
yep.
Yeah, it's
Should I accept this promotion?
yeah, no, it's that's a I mean, yeah, when you get to that level of like nuclear weapons, it's like you shouldn't be surprised that this is the level. It is interesting though, because even just in the short I've been doing this podcast, 5.5 years, this has been like a theme of something that is eventually coming of, as Iran gets closer, like Israel's going to act. Like they're going to. You don't have to like it. It's just what it is.
Well, it's existential, and it
Well,
is also, by the way, I should make this point. It is entirely legal under international law, at least since the 1600s, and legal jurisprudential expert Ugo Grotius, that anticipatory self-defense is legitimate. You don't have to wait until Tel Aviv has been incinerated.
well,
When you
yeah,
see that they're getting to the point of putting the warheads on the missiles, it is legitimate to strike.
yeah, and no different than Cuba in '62. It's of course that's going to happen. It's sort of, I guess it's kind of surreal that it's finally happened. It's been something that's just kind of always been on the. It'd be like if
Yeah, I
China
mean, we
invaded
all knew it
Taiwan.
was coming. We
Yeah,
just didn't know
yeah,
exactly when. But those, precipitating factors I mentioned kind of dictated the urgency of the action.
yeah, and it's probably the least worst outcome. I mean, in terms of like it living in a nuclear world,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would
I
say
mean,
this is
they
the
could
least.
not, the
Yeah,
regime in Iran could not have been allowed to get a nuclear weapon, as President Trump has said over and over again. Little flying thing.
no, you're good.
And so has Prime Minister Netanyahu said the same thing. Iran cannot be allowed, will not be allowed to achieve a deliverable nuclear weapon. And so here we are. Um, but I can go on to mention
Yeah,
a
keep
couple
going.
of
Yeah, yeah.
things that now in we're now in the third day, if you will, um, being the last Friday, Saturday, today, Sunday, since those attacks by Israel began, and the Iranian regime, with whatever ballistic missiles it's got left, they were estimated to have around 2,000 at the beginning of the Israeli operation last Friday. Many of those have been destroyed. hundreds of them have already been fired off against Israel, and thankfully, most intercepted, but not all. And unfortunately, there have been casualties. In fact, because Iran is deliberately aiming for and attacking, targeting civilian population areas, specifically in Tel Aviv, as up to the time that I know now, 10 Israelis have been killed, 200 injured, and some more still missing that they're looking for under rubble. And the barrages of those incoming missiles continues. But I guess the good news, if there is any here, is that they are going to run out of missiles fairly soon. They simply don't have that many left, and that is thanks to earlier Israeli action, Israeli Air Force. Interesting, I make a point here. Um, the Iranian regime has jet fighter planes, but they date from the 1970s.
Yeah, F4
They have not
Phantoms.
sent a single plane up into the air to counter the incoming fighter jets of the Israeli Air Force. They know better.
Well,
There's no point.
they have F4
Completely,
Phantoms. Yeah,
outmatched.
that
What they have sent, they have some aerial defense left, surface to air missiles, for example, some air defense left, but they don't have, the S-300 systems anymore, and they don't. Many other of their air defense systems also been taken out. So, what we're hearing is that basically the airspace over not just Tehran but all of Iran is open, completely open to the Israeli Air Force, and they're going to be taking advantage of that over coming days to complete, the targeting of their target package, meaning the rest of the nuclear weapons sites and other military sites. But no, they're not attacking civilian sites in Tehran. They are going very, unbelievably precision targeting of these specific sites that I've named and individuals, military leadership individuals I've named. Um, let's see, both President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu have spoken out since the operation began. And I think notable is Prime Minister Netanyahu, who actually, I think it was yesterday, um, addressed the Iranian people directly, encouraging them to stand up and take back their own liberty and their own nation in this time of the most utter weakness of the regime forever. And we know, of course, that in the streets of Tehran and other cities across Iran, the people are in the streets and they are chanting Marg bar Khamenei, Marg bar dictator. In Farsi, that means death to Khamenei, death to the dictator. And with the destruction, as I just said a bit ago, of the Basij headquarters in Tehran, Basij, of course, are those, black outfitted thugs with the black helmets and the black uniforms on the black motorcycles, and who put down domestic unrest in Iranian cities. That's who the Basij are. They're the street thugs who, shoot, kill, beat the Iranian people in the streets who are out protesting for their freedom. For example, after the 2022 death of Mahsa Amini, the Kurdish girl who was arrested by police, in this case, arrested by police and bludgeoned to death in police headquarters in Tehran because she had let her hijab slip a little bit inside the family car and some hair
Jesus.
had been showing. And the revolt that broke out, the people taken to the streets all over Iran, this went on for at least a couple of years to this day, really, in the Zan Zendegi Azadi. Zan means women, Zendegi means freedom. I'm sorry, Zan Zendegi, women, life. Zendegi means life, and Zan Zindagi Azadi. Azadi means freedom. So women, life, freedom. It was the Basij forces in the streets, the black outfitted thugs, as I said, who took down those demonstrations and went after those people. Well, their headquarters is now no more. Now that doesn't mean they were all in it at the time, but the headquarters is gone, and any assets, equipment, whatever else might have been inside that headquarters in Tehran, taken down today.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's always that idea of you can really name any country with a less than favorable leadership is at some point the people will rise up. But I mean, Iran is unique in my incredibly limited education on any of this, but in that it was kind of normal up until 79.
Well, it was modernizing. It was,
It looks like the United
moving towards greater,
States,
liberalization. Yes, it was a monarchy. No, it was not a democracy,
not even
but it
that. I
was a
mean, just
lot
like
more
chicks and
liberal.
skirts. That's what I
Huh, say
mean.
again?
It's like I said the most basic. It's just like chicks and skirts.
Right, right.
Like that. Like,
University
I'm not even talking
co-eds.
about the monarchy. I'm
and
just talking about in
in
general.
in
Like,
classes and mixing with the young men at the universities, totally normal. On the beaches, they have
yeah,
beautiful beaches on the Caspian.
that's what I mean.
um
Is like,
you know all of that was happening even though it was a monarchy under the Shah, not elected. And he, he kept a tight grip through the Savak, the his intelligence services. But yeah, it was westward looking, it was modernizing in every way you could think about.
that's what I mean. Is like less than even what you're allowed to, less than who's in charge, but more of like, are you allowed to just the most basic things? And it,
Well, basic to us,
sure,
but
sure,
not in a society like that
sure, but you almost look at it
necessarily.
and it is, it's like the meme of a picture of Korea from space at night, and it's like if
Oh
only we,
yeah, yeah,
it's like let's do a perfect laboratory test where we have two variables. One is free, the other is not. One's communism. Let's just see what they look like 80 years later. Like it's kind of funny how it's like
yeah.
South
But here,
Korean.
you're making a really good point about the society, the people of Iran. And, you know, Prime Minister Netanyahu really made these points when he was speaking, like I said, directly to the people of Iran. Um, and that is that its population has a very large, cohort of young people, let's say 30, 35 and under. Um, Unfortunately, lots of them are not having children. And the Iranian birth rate is kind of going off a cliff. Don't know if that can be turned around. I would personally, maybe I'm no psychiatrist. That was my daughter's major in college, not mine. Um, but it seems to me that that population is psychologically dislocated by the
Yeah,
last 46 years of this oppressive regime. But the point being here that those young people, are incredibly much like young people everywhere else in the world. They want to wear what they want to
yeah.
wear. They
It's
want to have whatever t-shirts, whatever ball caps, whatever hairstyles they want. And they're exceptionally good at online tech, if you will. And they know how to get past the censors and the jammers and all of that of the regime. And they can see how young people in the rest of the world, certainly in Europe, in the United States, Canada, the Western world, as well as many other places in the Far East too, how they live, the freedoms they have. And I noticed just, I think today or yesterday, that Elon Musk has just opened up the availability of Starlink for Iran. Now, the only part about that, the caveat would be that the people have to have, the receiver
yeah.
dishes to take advantage of that. So they need to airdrop a bunch of those in, I think. I mean, the airspace is open, so why
I was
not?
gonna say
You know,
no one's.
but they need to have the dishes in order to get that reception. But Elon Musk has opened up Starlink for Iran. But they want to they want to be like young people everywhere else in the world, and they're sick and tired of Islam. The mosques in Iran are closing by the thousands because nobody goes anymore.
Hmm.
Nobody wants to go to a mosque. They're done with Islam up to here. Now, some may be converting to Christianity. Some are just like done. I don't want any kind of religion, nothing, finished.
Yeah,
But the point is that that allegiance, to the kind of ideology the regime has tried to inculcate in its people over these last 46 years is not taking or has not taken. It's coming apart. And that's another impetus, I think, for the Iranian people in their quest to get rid of this regime and, stand up for their own liberty.
yeah. It's. I feel like you can get away with a lot as like a less than democratic leader if you can't step on all the toes. Let people go to the bar. Like you can get away with a lot if you just kind of let people go live.
Well, they don't have bars in Iran.
That's what I mean though, is like not every person is like in they should be, but not every person is like deeply literate and awake to political processes. If you want to get away with murder, like give them McDonald's and bars. But like you're not even doing that. So, but back to the
No,
Korea
it's
thing,
been just utter total repression. We're talking about
well,
executions
that's what I
this
mean.
year alone, over 1,000
That's what I mean
already,
is it's like the two
instilling
Koreas.
terror into the people. That's what they've done.
If you like looked back at if you could somehow divide Iran in two and have one that didn't have the revolution in 79, you'd be like, yeah, not only is it oppressive and repressive and all that, it's like now you're getting hit and now your sovereign airspace is being molested in like the military terms of like, and why can't you fight back? Because you have F4 Phantoms that you have these rickety planes that we were using in Vietnam that are at best
That
case you
old.
can see
Yeah.
them in a museum. Like I know them from video games like
Mm.
Battlefield
Oh my.
Vietnam. Like it is so at a certain point it's like this is a direct result of that. Like it not only will you have your hands chopped off if you, I don't know, flirt with someone in public
No, if you steal, that is
and
the
you,
Islamic law penalty. It is Islamic law for both Sunnis and Shiites. The penalty for theft, repeated theft anyway, can be chopping off your hand or fingers, maybe.
well that maybe I'm not even opposed to. I thought it was for like alcohol. I think we
No,
would do good.
alcohol is flogging. The
Yeah.
punishment for alcohol consumption would be flogging
Yeah, I'm not for
in
that, but
Iran under Islamic law. Again, this comes straight out of the Quran. This isn't something that this Iranian regime made up.
yeah.
This is Islamic law.
Yeah.
It's the Quran.
I think we would benefit from a little hand chopping off here. I think you'd have a
I'm not going to go for that.
You don't have to, but I mean, I don't know, just looting. I don't know, maybe it might work. Point is you see what happens, where it doesn't just it's not placid. It does eventually turn into, you know, you're getting hit in your own country because it's going so far as to not only are we going to run this hellscape here, we're going to get nuclear weapons to attempt to impose our will on the world. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
gonna eventually rot, decay, and fall apart.
well, corrupt to the core for
Yeah.
one thing, but if anyone wants to look online in English, the Iranian Constitution is available, and in that Constitution it says very clearly that the IRGC is an ideological army with the mission not only within to defend within Iran's own borders, but to export via jihad, to export Islam to the rest of the world. And it quotes in the Iranian constitution a verse directly out of the Quran. It's verse 860, which happens to be, by the way, the very same verse that's the motto of the Sunni Muslim Brotherhood. And what that verse says is make ready your power, make ready your forces to the utmost of your power, including steeds of war to strike terror into the hearts of the enemy, quote unquote. So this is what propels them, but it does not propel, certainly anymore, the Iranian people. The revolution generation of the 60s and 70s, they're octogenarians or more or not there anymore by this point. And you've got, again, like I said, a large young population that wants no part of this stuff. And that's what's overtaken the regime now. But yeah, the nuclear weapons had to be stopped.
Well, we'll kind of wrap this up with I had on an author years ago. He wrote the book Dead Hand, David Hoffman, but he also wrote a book called $1 Billion Spy about this Soviet spy, Oleg something, and he was a spy for the United States and helped us, I think, get like their blueprints for the whatever the latest MiG fighter was. And so by the time it was debuted and put into production, we had already known all of its weak points, and we had actually designed our fighter jets
Mm,
specifically to hunt down its weak points. So by the time this jet came out, we had it was already a sunk cost for the Soviets. And Oleg was making some money from the CIA. They were giving him some. It was better than his salary. Um, and they had said, we can get you out years from now, but you're not on the highest priority of smuggling out of the Soviet Union, but we'll keep paying you. And he took these huge
mm,
risks of he would steal the blueprints from the factory,
wow.
and he would have to he'd have to constantly be changing his ID tags, and he was slipping this stuff, he's hiding it inside of his watch, anything that could, if caught, would result in him getting shot in the head. And he would bring it home, and the CIA smuggled him in a little camera, and he would take these pictures at night, and the blueprints are huge, so he had to spread them out and shut his
Oh,
windows and hang the camera up from it was just this whole thing. He was just
amazing.
truly doing like the Lord's work. And finally, at one point, his handler was like, "Oh, like we're gonna keep paying you, and we'll try to get you out, but the risks you're taking are so." He's like, at a certain point, the guy was like, "I have to tell you in good conscience, like." You're putting in so much more than you're getting paid for, and like you're walking the razor's edge. You're gonna get killed. And he had said in response, and I'm paraphrasing it, the KGB tortured my parents to death and they killed my wife's parents. I don't care. This isn't about me making money. I hate this system more. And Oleg was eventually found out and executed. There wasn't a happy ending.
Mm,
But what Hoffman goes on to say is there is a, much like there's the hidden hand of the free market, he said there's a hidden hand of tyrannical states where you have some people where you go, why are you doing this? You're not even making enough money. And they go, I just hate these people so much that I don't care what happens to me. I don't think it's that far of an assumption to say that's probably what some of the Iranian
yes,
uh,
no, absolutely,
you probably have these
absolutely.
people who are like, yeah, I got $200. Maybe the Mossad will. Hey, but guess what? I don't give a shit.
There are videos coming out of Iran right now, big cities like Tehran, maybe elsewhere too. People in the streets, writing graffiti on walls, chanting death to the dictator, Margbar dictator, Margbar Khomeini, and writing that in graffiti on the walls. What has to happen, in my estimation, for the regime to be overthrown? And by the way, there have been reports over the last 24 hours of planes leaving Iran, closed airspace at the moment, planes leaving Iran, nevertheless, passenger planes headed north. Um, so are some of the regime people, leadership, family bailing, getting out? Maybe. Don't know for sure, but those are the reports I'm hearing. But in any case, what has to happen to finish this is that the country really go on strike. We may know that the truckers have been on strike across the country for the last, oh, I don't know how many weeks, at least 2 or 3 weeks. I also heard that just today the bazaris have shut down the main Tehran bazaar. That's the shopping area in Tehran. The bazaris all over the country have to go on strike too. And finally, elements of maybe the Pasdaran, but certainly the Artesh. Artesh are the conscripted army, the regular army, not the IRGC, have to revolt, have to turn against the regime and refuse, as they did back in the 78, 79 overthrow of the Shah, refuse to fire upon or to move against the people. When that happens, the regime is done.
Yeah, it's that's kind of what I meant by like you have to at least you gotta give him like the bare creature comfort because if not, you get people who like you go, why would that guy risk his life to? It's like you do reach a point of hatred to where you no longer rationally you go, I don't care. I don't screw these people. I don't care. And that's you probably have that. You probably have some guys that know, yeah, I'm probably not getting out of here alive. But whatever. The Iranian
The
state
resistance on the
decapitated my
inside.
wife
Yeah,
or my daughter because X, Y, and Z.
yeah.
That
I
is what
mean,
happens. It's you
apparently there are many, many, many regime opposition resistance people working on the inside with Mossad. I
yeah,
think they mostly belong to the Mujahideen Khalq, the MEK. Others probably too.
yeah,
For example, in the ethnic areas that we know are on the periphery of the Iranian state, Baluchis in the east, Azeris and Kurds in the north, Ahwaz Arabs in the east, south, and southeast. These people don't want to be ruled by this regime from Tehran. Um, Once the ethnic groups rise up and if they can, take up arms against the central regime, that will be part of it too.
yeah. I mean, it's to a certain point. Yeah, I can't even be surprised. You, yeah, you have people who the take a term from chemistry, the activation energy becomes less
Okay,
and
there you
less and
go. Yeah,
less.
yeah.
You have people that are just like, yeah, whatever. They killed my cousin because she dated some dude at whatever. You get a point
Hmm.
where you're, yeah, I don't really care. Yeah, I don't really care, and it's get what you deserve. But for right now, we'll wrap this up. Thank you for doing this on short notice, Miss Lopez.
Sure.
And glad to
Glad
talk
to.
about it. I should probably get back on Twitter. I
Yeah,
should
you
probably
should. But
yeah.
meanwhile, happy Father's Day to all
Yes,
the dads in your family, yours for sure, your brother for sure,
absolutely.
and all the dads in the Carrigan family.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, and happy Father's Day, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful one. This will be up tomorrow. I will text it to you, all that good stuff. Miss Lopez, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.